This is The Real Gig with Bret Alexander.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. Last week I had Barb Morrison on, and they were a great guest, and we talked a lot about songwriting, so I thought I'd do a quick solo episode this week, talking about songwriting and recording and the whole process. Basically, Barb said something like, I said, sometimes you have a session coming in or whatever, and you have to have a song, and the band's coming in an hour, and there's no song, and there has to be one in an hour. And they asked me, how do we tap into that? How does a person tap into that? Everybody's different. In my case, it's always different for me, but I mean, you can kind of just start with some little seed of an idea. Maybe you hear something on the way in to the studio that day, or wherever you're going to be writing, hear something on the radio, or something comes into your head and inspires you in some way. There can be a line. Usually in my case, like people ask if I write like the music or the words first. I kind of write them both at the same time because so much of the lyrics are kind of dependent on the pentameter of the song itself. Like I think if you're a person that writes lyrics first and then you write the music on top of it, you kind of tend to write in these real squared off stanzas like da 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 da, like in these real kind of square poetic patterns. And I think music, if you read the lyrics to your favorite songs, if you sit down and look at them and read them, they don't feel like that. The words are kind of crafted around musical ideas, which aren't square, which are round, and that's what you're looking to do. Like sometimes I'll start with like a chord progression. I just, for instance, I just was online the other day, and the woman was playing this chord progression, was like kind of like, and that's kind of like a one chord, flat 6, flat 7, like a G major, E flat major 7th, a G major 7th, E flat major 7th, and F major. It's kind of like, as I was just playing, it's kind of like a Seal, Kiss from a Rose, like great little moody progression. Maybe you'll start like that. I saw that little reel online, and she was playing this progression. I thought, oh wow, that sounds really cool. And then maybe you take it into another key, you start messing around. And that kind of brings you back around. You can start with some little progression like that. It can be based on something else. And usually the way it blows out after the fact has nothing to do with where it started. I always tell the story of, I have a song called Luther's Windows. And the seed of the song was, I moved into this house, bought a house, and I had this brown Labrador Retriever, and we had these windows that were really low to the ground, where the windowsill was pretty low, and the dog was walking up and putting its nose up against the windows, and it left all these nose prints everywhere you went. And I thought, like, oh, what a lonely image of this dog with dog's nose prints on all these windows, wanting to go outside. And I ended up writing this song about a shut-in person, and just kind of developed this whole story over this one little tiny line in the first verse, and it just got blown out into this whole tune. And usually that, sometimes like the actual seed is nothing like what comes out of it. So I don't like to get too worried about borrowing something or or having something be inspired by something that already exists, because I always say, like it's all one long song. It's like we're just kind of adding on to what came before us and generations before us, and all these wonderful songs and things that influence us, and that's what we do as songwriters. Is we're just kind of taking the whole thing a little farther down the road, and each generation adds different elements, whether it be technology or what's going on socially, or whatever, fashion, doesn't matter, new sounds, new equipment, new instruments, new tastes, and kind of just takes that basic core and pushes things down the road. Songwriting is kind of the first step. I always say, like, songwriters are kind of like the liaison with the universe, and that's you're kind of pulling these things out of thin air. Sometimes you're pulling it out of thin air. Maybe you had like a little seed, like I said, but then you kind of got to catch these things as they come to you. And I'm not a person that likes to throw kind of, I got it from the universe kind of, I don't know, way of talking, but truly does kind of come out of nowhere sometimes. It's just like thoughts come out of nowhere, just these inspirations come out of nowhere. Your brain kind of organizes them in a way that it can understand, and sometimes that way that your brain can understand it is a song. So anyway, songwriting, basically a liaison with the universe, and you're taking these thoughts and ideas and you're kind of pulling them into tangible form, based on your experience, based on your training, based on your abilities and your sensibilities, and you're putting a song together from that point. If you're going to actually record the song and trying to release it on some level and put it out in the public eye, you got to deal with an engineer. An engineer is kind of the liaison with the technology and the equipment, and basically microphones and preamps and compressors and wires and everything that you need to do physically, in that realm to physically make a recording, make a sound that someone else can listen to, that it just isn't in your head or in your hands, so that's kind of the engineer's job. A producer is kind of liaison with your audience. Producer will help you focus what you're doing, to wrap it into sort of an understandable and a focused, discernible package that you can put out there. Basically, music has what's the word I always said was style is the conduit through which substance flows. There's you so much of what people's musical taste is. I mean, if you break a lot of songs, no matter what the style is, if you break them down to their basic framing, there's not much difference between maybe something that you really like and something that you really dislike. A lot of the like and dislike is based on production, performance. If you like things understated, you're not going to like a big demonstrative performer to do that work. So really the kind of like a producer is making those decisions on how to best present what you've created in a way that will make sense to the most amount of people, and will make sense based on who you are and what you want to accomplish, what kind of vibe you want to put out there. So yeah, I mean, basically you're working, and every step along the way, you have a songwriter writes a song, liaison with the universe. You have an engineer, liaison with the technology, and producer, liaison with an audience. And basically all these things overlap. An engineer does things that could be considered production. Maybe there's a strange sound that happens, or like he comes up with something with the way a microphone is placed, or something is recorded, or it gets cut up or something like that in such a way that that becomes a hook. And then the lines get really blurred between what is production, what is arranging, what is engineering and what is songwriting. Like, and that's what people get in arguments about, because in my world, songwriting is words and music. Whoever wrote the words and the music is the songwriter. But there's also, as time is going on, production has become much more important in popular music. So the lines get really blurred as to what is production and what is songwriting and what is engineering and all these kind of things. There's a real it all kind of melts together. So yeah, I mean that's basically the process for writing a song and kind of defining how you tap into it. That was the question that was asked to me, and you're just starting with a little seed. Just a little seed. It can be a musical idea, it can be a lyrical idea, whatever it is, and you're just taking that and you're blowing it up, usually on a time frame. Sometimes you only have an hour or two to do that, and I think that's a good thing. I think the quicker that the ideas come floating by and you grab them and you put them in tangible form and you make them real, I think that's a better move than ruminating for too long. I think smart people sometimes aren't the best songwriters. I don't, maybe smart's not the right word. Analytical. Like an analytical person maybe is not the best songwriter in the world, just because you're talking about emotions that don't have words or names or form or structure, and they're best left in their purest form, more or less, as much as you can. You have to put a frame around them. That's music production. You're putting a frame around the ideas in the song, so people can understand, where the art is, when they walk into a room, or they listen to something. They have to know where to direct their attention to, and they make a very quick judgment as to what it is, where it's coming from. Basically the core values of whatever it is that they're listening to. So this is a short episode, but I just kind of wanted to go through that process, and that's it. Okay? See you next week.
This podcast was produced by Stone State Entertainment.